This is Table Battles by Hollandspiele. There's their little logo there, designed by Tom Russell. I thought Hollandspiele was a Dutch company, which would be the obvious conclusion, but they are very, very American indeed. So this has come from a printer in California. I'm not quite sure of the production method. They seemed to take my order and send it to the printer, and the printer did something and sent me a box with some games in it. Great. Table Battles then. This is a card and dice game. Card, dice and stick game even, because you've got these little sticks representing the health of each of your units. And it's meant to be the intro. It's got 3 pages of rules. The intro said it's meant to be a kind of light filler war game thing. It looks pretty fun. I've had a few games of it already because it does play very fast and it's very simple. So you've got 2 sides, the blue side and the red side. And this is the Battle of Malplaquet I've got set up here. There are 8 battles in the box. This is Malplaquet from 1709. The first player French, the second player the Grand Alliance. And here we have in the French corner VRs, a unit called Centre, Boufflers and the reserves. And over on the Grand Alliance we have Marlborough and Orange, backed up by Lotham, Schulenburg, Orkney in reserve, and down here Withers. So what's going to happen is that on each player's turn, they're very quick, you get to take an action with your army, and to take an action you spend dice on one of your cards, and you don't start with any dice on your cards, so you're not going to start being able to take an action. But you'll take an action by spending dice on one of your cards, and then you'll roll your remaining dice, whatever dice you've got in your dice pool, and allocate them so that you can take actions the following turn, and then play passes to the other side. Sometimes you'll take a reaction on the enemy turn, and if you do that you can't take an action on your own turn, so you'll find that there's momentum as one side's attacking and the other side is defending. The defending side won't get an attack, and the attacking side can stay on the attack for as long as it can sustain that pressure, and then it will slowly switch round as people don't get the dice rolls they need, and so on. So that's the kind of flow of the game. Let's look at some of the cards to discuss how it actually plays, because it'll make more sense. So let's have a look at Villars here. He's got 6 strength. That's that 6 there. This line here, the 5/6 with the star next to it. The star means he's worth double morale cubes for the other side, which we'll come to in a bit. But the 5/6 here with the symbols either side mean that you can roll dice and put 5s or 6s on him. He will accept 5s or 6s, and you can put any number in a turn, but they have to be the same. So they will have to be all 5s or all 6s. So let's try rolling some dice. Let's say I got that. That's not got a single 5 or 6 in it. Let's try again. So I could put that 5 on Villars, but I've got no other options. Let's try and get a roll which illustrates this a bit better. So I could put those 2 6s on Villars, and so on. Having done that, when he's got dice on him, he can attack. You can see it's just got attack. The box here doesn't say there's any other prerequisites. He just needs a dice on him and he can attack, which will cause 1 hit. Who can he attack? Well, he has to attack Schulenburg. If Schulenburg is routed and no longer in the battle, then he can attack Lotham. If Lotham is no longer in the battle, then he can attack Orkney. So he can line up against Schulenburg, then Lotham, then Orkney. Cool. What else can he do? If he's got a pair of dice on him, like that pair of 6s, he can screen. And what that means is that you negate an attack by an opposing unit. So you defend and you stop them attacking. If he's got a pair on him, had I put that pair of 6s on him, like that, then he could attack. or he could screen, and that would, as I say, negate an attack from Schulenburg or Lotham or Orkney. And the rules are that if you can screen an attack, if you can react, or even if you can react to an attack, then you must. Although if there are multiple reactions an army could make, it gets to choose which one. But if Schulenburg were to attack, he would have to screen. And as I was saying before, if you take a reaction like that, then in your following turn you don't get an action because you've already taken it. So they would be on the defensive. And he's also got a special rule down here. While this formation is in play, you may place 2 dice on 2 blue cards each turn, in addition to dice placed on any dark blue card. So you'll see here the French have 3 light blue units and a dark blue, and the Grand Alliance have red units and pink units. When you roll your dice, you can normally allocate them to 1 unit in each wing. So the French could allocate dice to 1 blue and 1 dark blue if they had them. The Grand Alliance could allocate them to 1 red and 1 pink. But Villars here is allowing them to allocate to 2 blue and the dark blue. So they've got a bit more choice. So we can see he takes 5s and 6s, any number. We can see that the centre only takes 4s, can attack Lotham, Orkney and Marlborough, can do more than 1 hit though. Attacking will cause him to take damage, but he can do 1 hit per die, so if you can stack up multiple 4s on him, then he can carry more of a punch. Bouffler's the same, can attack Orange and Marlborough, can screen against Orange and Marlborough, and down here the reserves can do something different. You can put doubles on them of any number, and they can use them voluntarily to take hits off instead of any of these 3 units. So they can defend, or they can sort of pour new troops essentially into these units by taking the hits themselves. They can also counterattack against Withers, causing him a hit. Down here on the Grand Alliance side, we have Schulenburg with 8 strength. He can cause 1 hit per die. He can only take 5s, and he can only take 1 die a turn, which is what the brackets mean. He can also counterattack with a pair against Villars or the centre, and do 1 hit per die. Lotham here only takes 4s, can only take 1 die per turn. He can do a hit per die, and he can counterattack against Villars, but only for 1 hit. Marlborough can screen Boufflers or the centre and attack Boufflers or the centre for 1 hit. Orange can only do a hit per die, that's his only ability, and can only take 6s and can only take 1 per turn. And Withers here needs a straight 1, 2, 3, 4, or 2, 3, 4, 5, or 3, 4, 5, 6. With which he can do an attack on the reserves for 1 damage, and over here in reserve, Orkney can do a hit with doubles on Villars or the centre. How does Orkney get into the game? Well, if Lotham is routed, in other words, if he takes 4 damage, then he would retire, and Orkney would take his place. Or you could spend your action to voluntarily retire him. Let's say he's got 1 stick left, and bring Orkney in instead. Why would you do that? Because each side has morale cubes. The Grand Alliance starts with 3, the French start with 2. If a unit on your side is routed, you give the other side a morale cube. So if Lotham was on 1 stick and about to be routed, and we couldn't do a lot about it, we might withdraw him from the front line to save us from giving a morale cube to the French, because if we run out of morale cubes, you lose the battle. And yes, that's finally going back to what I was saying here. The stars cost you double morale cubes. So if Villars was routed and nothing else had happened, the French would give 2 morale cubes to the Grand Alliance, and that would be game over straight away. So that's how it's played. You roll dice, you allocate them to your cards, you use those cards to try and present threats to enemy units, and or to prevent those threats, and you keep building attacks until something breaks, because obviously you've only got a fixed dice pool, and if I roll these and allocate my 5 to Bouffleurs and my 6 to VRs up here, and my double ones to down here. Then I've only got 2 dice to roll next time, and so I either have to do something to spend my dice to make things happen, to get them back again, to re-roll them, or I try and keep building to the position that I want. There we go. That's how the game's going to be played. Let's crack on. Okay, so here's the opening French die roll. Pair of 2s, 3, pair of 4s, and a 5. So, looking at the cards they've got, this guy can take doubles, and they can't use the 2s anywhere else. So, if we stick a pair of 2s on this guy, then that means he'll be able to either counterattack with us or do his job of absorbing damage to other people. Cool. Let's give the 5 up here to Villars, who can use it to make an attack doing 1 hit if he needs to against Schulenburg. And then that's put this pair of 4s, because we can use Villars to put dice on 2 blue cards. So we'll give the centre the pair of 4s, preparing a 2-hit attack against Lottom over here. Our 3 we can't use, so that comes off, and that's our last dice in our dice pool. And we're going over here to the Alliance, where they're going to roll that lot. Pair of 6s, a 5, a 4, a 2 and a 1 by the looks of things. 5, 4, 2, 1. What can they do with that? The 1 and the 2 can't be used at all. So they've got a pair of 6s, a 5 and a 4. Okay. So the pair of 6s could go on Marlborough, and that would let him screen the centre, so he could screen off this attack. That seems like a very sensible opening thing to do, since the centre is clearly planning to attack with 2 4s on it. And then he's got a 5 and a 4. He can't put anything on a pink card, and he hasn't got any more 6s, so he can't. So he's got a 5 and a 4. So he could put a 4 on Lottom and prepare him to attack, or he could put a 5 on Schulenburg and prepare him to attack. They both attack Villars and then the centre. So let's put the 4 down, because 5s are often useful for Marlborough, since he's one of our screening units. So yeah, actually though, let's actually put the 5 on Schulenburg instead. So that's the Allies done, and they've got 3 dice down in their pool now. So now the French have to decide what they're going to do. So are they going to take an action? This guy can't. He reacts. But we could attack with Villars, who could do a hit to Schulenburg and use that 5 up. Or we could attack with the centre, knowing that it would be screened by Marlborough because reactions are mandatory, and Marlborough can screen it. So let's do our attack with Villars. Use this 5 up. That does 1 hit to Schulenburg. So that's a hit. And now we'll roll out our 2 dice. And we get a pair of 3s. And a pair of 3s are no good to us at all. We could put another set of doubles on here. But when you use dice, you have to use all of them. That's quite an important rule that I haven't stated. So if this guy had 2 sets of doubles on him, it wouldn't make any difference. When he did his absorb or his counter-attack, he would have to use all 4. So that would just be a waste of dice. 2 3s don't go anywhere else, and we're left in this position having done an attack on Schulenburg. So now Marlborough could attack with his pair and do one hit on Boufflers, which would not be screened because the centre can't screen, but he knows that then the centre would attack him back and do 2 hits on Lotham. That's not a good trade. Two dice for a hit doesn't look like a good trade. Schulenburg could attack with his 1 dice, but he'd take a hit himself. Is that a good deal? Is that a good deal? VRs is actually worth double to us, so we'd like to take VRs down and just trading 1 for 1 against him. I don't like the look of it, so we're going to roll our dice. Get 2 6s and a 2. Okay. Now that would normally, you'd think that would be a terrific result, but the 2 6s on Marlborough, putting 4 6s on Marlborough has no effect at all. He's not. If he could do 1 hit per die, that would be terrific because he'd have a 4 dice attack lined up now, but he doesn't. Who else can take 6s? Well, Orange can take 1 per turn, and that's all he can do. And no one else can take them, and the 2's no good to us. So all we can really do with that roll is drop a 6 on Orange. So it looked good, but it wasn't. Back over to the French. Again, they've got this situation where do they attack? They're only rolling 2 dice. Do they attack with the centre knowing that it's going to get screened, or do they try and get an attack going elsewhere? There's something of a standoff between the centre and Marlborough. They're just going to roll their dice. Okay, they've got a 5 and a 3. And what they're going to do is drop the 5 onto Boufflers here, and the idea here is to double team Marlborough. If they can attack here with just this 1 dice against Orange with Boufflers, that will force Marlborough to screen, and then the following turn, if he can't screen again, then they've got a 2 dice attack that will get through. So they're going to try and overload against Marlborough, whose screening will not be able to defend against both these units unless he re-rolls dice which give him the screen again. Okay. So the question now is, what do the Allies want to do about that? Do they want to kick off Schulenburg's attack just to give them more dice to roll? Again, it doesn't look tempting, does it? Orange is in the same position. He could attack on a 1-for-1 basis and hit Boufflers, and he doesn't much want to do that either. But we're trying to roll 6s for him or 5s for Schulenburg. Well, so yeah, tricky. Let's give it a roll and see what happens. Well, we've got a 6, so we'll drop that second 6 onto Orange, and we've now got 1 dice in our pool, and we're building up an attack in the centre as well. We've got this 2 dice attack with Orange, which it would naturally be Boufflers who screened it. And now he's got to wonder what to do, because the French plan was to attack now with Boufflers, to draw this screen off Marlborough and then to go in with the centre. But now if they attack with Boufflers, it will get screened, but then they're opening themselves up to this attack from Orange, whereas their natural thing to do would be to try and roll another 5 and screen and so that Boufflers could screen. So I still think they have to go for this because they're only rolling one die. And they've got this doubles here, so if orange comes in and attacks, they can draw it off onto the reserves. So yeah, they'll attack with bouffleurs, and that frees up that dice. And it means that Marlborough has to screen and frees up those dice. It also puts the allies on the back foot because they now don't get an action next turn. Now we'll roll our 2 dice. And we've got a 6 and a 4, and that's quite nice because we can put our 4 into the centre here, and we can put our 6 up there on VRs, who can do a hit up on Schulenburg, but this is now a 4 dice attack coming in, and the allies don't have anything to screen that with because they've lost their dice on Marlborough. So that's looking quite potent. So the allies can't get to act either because they reacted with their screen from Marlborough, so they just roll in their dice and hoping for the best. They've got a 5, a 2 and a 1. Okay, well, what to do? The only thing they can use out of that lot is the 5, and it could go on Marlborough or it could go on Schulenburg. They're going to put it on Schulenburg and bump up his attack. Back over to the French, and as their action they'll launch their attack from the centre. So a 3 dice attack comes in from the centre. That causes 1 hit to the centre, but it causes 3 damage to Lotham. Lotham gets wasted. Lotham's down to a single stick. So 1 more point of damage and he's gone, and that will cost the allies a morale cube. And now they're rolling their dice. 5, 3, 6. Okay, so they quite like the idea of putting the 6 up here on VRs, because that allows him to screen against Schulenburg, who's got that 2 dice attack lined up on him. So that's him defended. And they've got a 3 and a 5. And they'll put the 5 on Bouffleurs, I guess, to see if he can get that screen down for himself, and the 3 is no good. Right, the allies didn't do anything last turn and just got nailed. So they've got some choices. They could launch this attack by orange against Bouffleurs, who can't screen at the moment. He's not got enough dice. They could also pull Lotham out of the line and replace him with Orkney. Or they could launch their attack with Schulenburg, knowing that it would get screened by VRs. But at least it would blunt VR's attack, although that's only going to do 1 hit, and they've got a counter-attack for a hit back, so they just trade. Okay, so they're going to launch Orange's attack here. He's going to spend 2 dice. He's going to get take a hit for it, but he's going to do 2 hits to Bouffleurs in here. Now, the French don't want Bouffleurs being hit, so they're going to spend 2 dice off the reserves, and he's going to absorb that 2 hits, and they'll take them off the reserves instead. And that also frees up the double, the 2 dice that have been sat down there. Okay, now the allies are going to get to roll 4. And they've got a 5, a 4 and a pair of 1s. That is pretty much useless. Okay, a 5, a 4 and a pair of 1s. Okay, well they'll stick the 5 on Marlborough and the 4 here on Lotham, and a pair of ones will have to go. French then, can they do anything? They could trade a hit up here. Biars could hit Schulenburg. Schulenburg would counter-attack to do a hit back because he's got 2 dice. He's got a pair that allows him to counter-attack. In fact, he'd counter-attack for 2 hits because he's doing a hit per die. They'd lose that trade and free up allied dice. But what else is he going to do? Sit there and wait and have dice sat on him for no good reason. I'm afraid they're going to have to do that for now. So those dice are kind of locked into Villars just to protect him. Boufflers could attack, but he'd be attacking orange and he'd do a hit and take a hit. That doesn't look like a very good idea. Let's try and get something better than that going. So here's his roll: a 5, a 3 and a 2. So if we stick a second 5 on Boufflers, he's now got a pair of 5s which allows him to screen. So we've got screening going on here, potential screening from Orange and Marlborough, and a screen up here from Schulenburg, Lotham and Orkney. So we've got good defence now. We just have to work out where we're going to attack next. So the Allies want to get this attack off with Schulenburg, but it's currently being screened by Villars, who's got 2 dice on him. So we want to get those 2 dice off him so that we can launch our attack by Schulenburg. So the natural thing to do then would be to attack with Lotham. Just blow this dice on Lotham, make him attack, force Villars to screen that, and then leave him unprotected against an attack there. It would also mean that the French couldn't attack in their turn because they'd screened. So we'll do that. We'll spend our dice here. We will force the French to screen there. And then we'll try, if we can get another 5 and get this up to a 3 dice attack on Schulenburg, that would be lovely. That would be quite threatening. So let's see what we can do. And we've got another 5, a 2 and a 3. So we could put the 5 on Marlborough, but that would be very defensive. Let's stick it up here on Schulenburg for a big 3 dice attack. The 2 and the 3 can't go anywhere, so that's back in our dice pool. And now the French have to worry because they're facing a big 3 dice attack. They've got a screen down here, but that's only against Orange and Marlborough, not out on the flank where Schulenburg is. So they've blocked this, they've screened this turn so they don't get an attack. They've just got to roll the bonus. And they have lucked out because they've got a pair of 6s here. They can drop that pair of 6s onto Villars and he's got a screen back up again. And they can also stick a 5 themselves onto Boufflers here. And now they've got a nasty 3 dice attack lined up themselves, and something's got to give quite soon. Well, there's an obvious way for the Allies to get themselves out of this situation, which is for Marlborough simply to attack. He's got a... Oh no, he needs a pair. Wow. Now that is unfortunate. If he'd had a pair, he could have attacked, and then Boufflers would have had to screen, and that would have been all his dice gone. He can't. Oh dear. So that now means that we've got a decision to make. We can roll our 2 dice, try and get a 5 so that Marlborough can screen. We'd also like a 4 so that Lotham can attack and remove Villars' 2 dice so that he's no longer screening against Schulenburg. The alternative is that we attack with Schulenburg and have those 3 dice back, give the French the 2 dice back off Villars and roll 5 dice and try and get Marlborough a 5 to screen with, or a pair of 6s. The downside of that is that we can only build these attacks a dice a turn. It's taken a long time to get Schulenburg ready to attack, and now we're just going to throw that all away here. That doesn't seem very good. But the alternative is that we roll 2 dice and we need a perfect roll. We need a 4 and a 5 so that we can put a screen on here and an attack on here. If we roll a 1 and a 3, we're going to get hit with this Bouffleur's attack against orange, and we're not going to be any better off in terms of Schulenburg attacking himself. So, low risk option, high risk option. Tricky. Let's take the high risk option for the hell of it. So we'll roll our 2 dice. On the other hand, if I make the attack and force the screen, that's the French action gone, and then they can't launch the attack with Bouffleurs, and that gives us a lot more time to rebuild a threat, because it gives us 2 rolls. God damn it. No, high risk option. Here we go. We've got a 2 and a 4. Well, we got half of what we wanted. So we'll stick the 4 up there on Lotham. The 2 can't do anything. Over to the French. Bouffleurs launches his 3 dice attack. That causes a point of damage to himself for launching it. And 3 hits. Who does he hit first? Orange. 3 hits to orange here. That's not good. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So orange has taken half his hits now. As the damage piles up here, you can see double the damage on the Allies as on the French so far. Okay. And now the French get to roll their bones. Let's see what they get. Get a 5, a 2, a 6 and a 2. Okay. Okay. They'll put the pair of 2s on the reserves and the 5 on Bouffleurs, and they'll keep the other dice back. Now the Allies didn't screen, so the Allies are going to use Lotham to attack with his single dice, and Villars has to screen that. So now Schulenburg has a viable threat against Villars, and the Allies will roll a 4 and a 1. Okay, so they'll put the 4 back on Lotham, even though him attacking without it being screened would be suicidal, because he'd take a hit and then rout. However, we want to keep some pressure up on Villars, and that's the way to do it. We can work round this, because if we get a chance we could withdraw him, get the dice back and bring Orkney in. So over here on the French side, they've got Bouffleurs ready to attack. He could do another hit on orange. And they've got 2 dice tied up down here. No, they need to roll there. They need to organise a new attack or some defence. They've got a 1, a 2 and a 6. Well, the 6 is going to have to go up there on Villars to try and prepare some defence. The 1 and the 2 are no good to them, and now it's the Allies' turn to launch an attack. Schulenburg is going to hit with these 3 dice. That's going to cause a hit to himself, but it's going to put 3 hits into Villars, and they don't want 3 hits into Villars, so the reserves are going to spend their 2 dice, and they're going to take those 3 hits. Okay, so now the Allies get to roll, and they've got 1, 2, 2, 3. That is absolutely abysmal. They cannot believe it. They can't use any of those. Okay, so the French Well, the French could launch an attack which does a hit on Schulenburg, just with that one dice there, or Boufflers could attack orange. And they're actually going to launch this attack and do the hit on Schulenburg. Except they can't do that because they reacted. Not allowed. Because the reserves used a reaction, so the French have had their action this turn. They're just rolling the dice. They've got a 4, a 5 and a 6. That's a really, really good roll for them. Except a 2, a 4, a 5 and a 6, except they can only put dice on 2 of their 3 blue cards. So they'll add 6 to Villars so that he can screen, and a 5 to Boufflers so that he can screen. And they're feeling quite good. Okay, these guys. So Lotham will attack with his dice, which will remove this screen, and then the Allies will roll 3 1s, a 6 and a 2. That's not very good, is it? Okay, well the 6 we'll put down here on orange, and the rest we'll have to keep. The French screened this turn, so can only roll their dice. Wow, they are just rolling awesome. So they can put 2 5s into Boufflers here, and he's got a hell of a attack built up, and they'll put the 6 on Villars up there. And now the Allies really, really need something to go right for them. Well, here's the thing. He needs a pair to attack, but orange can attack with just his 1 die, and Boufflers has to screen it. So that's the obvious thing to do. And Boufflers really probably shouldn't have built up that big stack, but he has to screen that attack from orange, and his big attack is all dissipated as orange manoeuvres around him. And now the Allies roll. Okay, 3 4s, a 5 and a 3. Well, the 5 will sit on Marlborough. That gives him screening, and we can put a 4 on Lotham. As for the rest of those, I don't think there's much we can do. In fact, I'll keep the 4 on Lotham. And the French, who screened with Boufflers, get 2 1s, 2 2s and a 5. Okay, so we'll drop the double 1s onto the reserves again, and we'll stick the 5 here on Boufflers. We're in a bit of trouble. I'm just going to pause there for a second. Actually, hold on. No, I'm not. I'm going to roll it out. So the Allies The Allies are going to take this opportunity to swap out Lotham. He's going home so that he can't cost us any more. He can't cost us a morale cube. And we'll bring Orkney in, who can use doubles, which might be a little bit more flexible than the single 4 per turn that Lotham requires. and he can just do a hit without hurting himself. So hopefully that gives us some more opportunity. So for example, with a roll like that, we can now put the double ones on Orkney, and we've got a 5 and a 6. So we could put them on Marlborough or orange. We might as well put a dice on orange. Okay. Over on this side, no attack here. Boufflers could attack orange. And that would force Marlborough to screen. But actually what we're going to do is we're going to use this die up here on VRs and just pop another hit on Schulenberg, gradually wear him down. And then as the French will roll a 4, 2, 4, 5. Okay, that's interesting. We'll drop the 5 on Boufflers, we'll drop the 4 on the centre, we'll keep the 2 back. Alright. So Orkney will attack with his doubles to do 1 hit on Villars. Can anyone screen that? No, they can't. So Villars takes a hit. And now we'll roll our dice. 2, 3, 4 is just horrible. We can't use any of those. And the Allies are in some trouble here, I think. Let's see what the French are going to do. Now the centre is going to attack for the French with its 1 die, because that's going to force Marlborough to screen. And then they'll roll these 2 bones and get a 1 and a 2, and that's useless to them. And we come across here. The Allies screens, they can't attack. Oh, but now they start to get a roll. 2 5s, 2 6s and a 4. So the pair of 6s can go on Marlborough. The pair of 5s up on Schulenberg. No, he can only take one a turn, so they'll stick them on Orkney. Okay. And there's no attacking going on. And this could go on for a while, and I'm conscious that I've probably done quite a lot of film already, so I'm going to roll it out as we hit, keep going until we hit some critical points. Well, about 2 rolls after I stopped filming, Orange got 3 dice built up on him, launched an attack into Boufflers, and the French were forced to sacrifice the last strength point on their reserves. Rather than take 3 hits on him, they took 1 hit on the reserves. The remaining are not transferred, but it means they've lost a unit and transferred a morale cube to the Allies. So they've got their, all their units are still pretty strong. However, they've lost their reserves, and so they've lost some capacity to assign dice as well. And the Allies are still kind of pressing an attack here, although they haven't done this turn. So we've reached this point here where the centre unit has got a 4 dice attack ready to go into Orkney, who's only got 4 health. And the French have used Boufflers, a single dice attack from Boufflers to draw the screening from Marlborough. So Marlborough had 2 dice on him, was screening this central attack. They've launched this attack to force that screen down, and now they've rolled another 4 to add into here, and this is ready to go next turn. And that's going to be the end of Orkney, unless the Allies can roll a pair of 5s or a pair of 6s and screen this. and they can't. They've got a pair of 2s, a 1 and a 4, and that's another useless roll for them. Absolutely useless. I mean, they can put the pair of 2s on Orkney, but there's no point because he's going to die. Yeah, it's all going wrong, isn't it? And so now the centre launches this 4 dice attack, takes a hit himself, and wipes Orkney out. That's Orkney gone, and that's a morale cube back over to the French. And this is all looking quite difficult for the Allies, who could very feasibly lose this battle. Let's see how it goes. Well, straight after that attack, another huge roll for the French, who pull 3 6s and a 4 out of the bag. That lines up a 3 dice attack from Boufflers onto Orange. Orange only got 3 health left. Again, no one's screening. The Allies in all sorts of trouble here. And they get a pair of 3s, a 4 and a 6. Well, the 6 might as well go on Marlborough. But that's all she wrote. That's all they can do. And now over here on the French, Boufflers launches this 3 dice attack, takes a hit on himself, and wipes out Orange, who is gone as well. And that's another morale chip over onto the French side. And now it's 3 against 3, and the 3 French units can take as many dice as they roll in a turn. Marlborough can, but he's only got a 1-hit attack. Schulenburg can only take 1 dice a turn, and Withers requires a straight to do anything, and that's hit the reserves, who's dead, so he is useless. And the Allies in all the trouble in the world here. And we've finally reached this position here where Schulenberger has got a 3 dice attack prepped and ready to go into Villars, which would knock him out. But unfortunately, it's not the Allies' go. Marlborough only has 1 bar left, no dice to screen with, and both the centre and Boufflers have got a 1 dice attack ready to go on him. So the centre spends its dice, spends its point of health, and takes the last unit off Marlborough. And that's Marlborough gone, and he is a 2 morale unit. So these last 2 morale cubes go over to the French side, and they are victorious. The Battle of Malplaquet, won by the French. That took a little bit longer than the advertised 20 minutes, but probably because I was filming and narrating rather than just rolling and making decisions. So that's table battles. I don't know whether when I stitch this all together it's going to give an impression of how it plays, but it's certainly a lot of fun. It's very easy to play, it's very easy to set up, it's very easy to take down. There are 8 battles in the box, so if you don't like Malplaquet, you can just pull out something else. Let's have a quick look at the battles list. Let's find those cards. So let's just grab the cards from over here. Let's see what we've got. We've got a Bosworth Field, which I've tried, York against Lancaster. We've got the Battle of Ivry, Royalists against the Catholic League. The Dunes in 1658, French and English against the Spanish. Okay. Brooklyn Heights, Colonials against British and their vile Hessians. Battle of the Plains of Abraham, British against French. We've got Marston Moor, Royalists against Parliamentarians, and White Mountain, which is in Saints in Armour, the Musket and Pike series, the Bohemians against the Imperials and Catholic League. Really interesting to see how it plays out here in this very simple card and die system, substantially quicker than Saints in Armour, I would warrant. Anyway, this is Table Battles from Hollandspiele. It's a lot of fun. Is it replicating history? I really don't know anything about the Battle of Malplaquet, so I can't tell you, but certainly the way that these units are arranged against each other, such that the centre can attack Lotham, Orkney and Marlborough, whereas Villars has to attack Schulenburg, Lotham and Orkney, gives the sense of lines arrayed against, you know, sort of opposite numbers in their area that they can that you can influence, whereas Villars can't attack Withers down here, for example. So it does give a sense of a sort of static or linear formations that are, you know, lined up against one or two opponents against them. And this battle here in the centre, and Boufflers against Orange and Marlborough, both over there in the routed pile. So it does give that impression, and there are tactics and schemes to use where you attack with one unit to open, you know, almost like a feint to draw the screening from the other unit and then go in with your main attack. That seems to be the main way to get things done in this game, is to use a feint attack to draw the defence and then go in with a big attack. And it's all very interesting, you know. Like I say, I don't know anything anywhere near enough about the Battle of Malplaquet to know whether this is replicating it in a different format. It may well be doing so, and you'd probably have to play 10 or 15 games of it to start seeing, you know, patterns of play, and then you could judge those against whether they were plausible given the history. So I wouldn't like to talk about it from that respect, but it is very nicely produced, a lot of fun, quite cheap, a lot of battles in the box, and very simple and easy to get onto the table for an hour.